I'm James Callicutt, Waterfowl and Upland Gamebird Extension Specialist at Mississippi State University, and I'm here today with Houston Haven. He's the Waterfowl Program Coordinator for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Here today that's being managed for waterfowl, and they've got a lot of rice fields that they manage in winter flood. And there's a couple of different practices that you can do. It's maybe not just as simple as just flooding an ag field. I mean, that is one way of just easily producing waterfowl habitat. But there are some ways to make a rice field like this a little bit better quality habitat for ducks. And that's what Houston and I are going to talk a little bit about today. First off, I think the biggest thing people want to know is how much food is actually in a rice field for ducks, especially after it's been harvested. So here you can see that we're standing in an area that's been harvested here. And we have some area behind us here that has been left standing, has been left unharvested. And it's been a very long time since we've had research done to actually estimate how much food is available in harvested agricultural fields of the types that ducks like to eat, like rice, corn, and of course soybeans. They'll eat those as well. But in a rice, even back then when we did about 20 years ago, when we did that, when that research was done at Mississippi State, it was really actually Houston some pretty low abundances as far as after that crop was harvested, right?
That's right. A lot of advances in technology with efficiency of combines, rice being harvested earlier in the season, so the waste grain that is left in the field is there for a longer period of time. Things like rodents, other birds eating at it before it's flooded for waterfowl, and even germination of some of that seed that's left in the field.
Yeah, and so back in 20 years ago, for all those reasons that Houston just mentioned, we didn't find that there was that much seeds per acre left out here back then. And you're talking about one of the big things that Houston just cited, was that more efficiency in harvesting, that technology improving. So we've had 20 years on it since the last time we looked at that. So it may be quite a bit bleaker even today. But ducks do like showy water, and when they move into a landscape, that helps attract them to a place. And so any type of flooded agricultural field, regardless of how much food is in there, if it's flooded, it's going to provide some attraction to ducks and make that landscape overall more attractive to ducks. But if you want to make sure you have some more habitat or more food in one of these wetlands, leaving standing crop is an excellent way of doing that, right, Houston? So just leaving some patches maybe around where you're going to have a blind or something to hunt. It's great from a hunting standpoint, but it's great from waterfowl foraging potential in an area, increasing that value of it to ducks.
Yeah, this farmer has done strips of unharvested rice across the field, and what that does, it just gives more opportunity to be able to hunt in different areas of the field. You might see ducks going down on the far end of the field. You still have some flexibility in being able to move where you are. It also just distributes the food patches in the field. It doesn't just leave it all in one place, just kind of distributes across and gives some areas for managing open water in between the unharvested areas as well.
When they harvest these fields, obviously there's places around where where the combines obviously ran through the field, and their tracks have left some small openings. But this rice stubble, if you can tell, it's about knee-high on Houston, and if you put the kind of shallow water depth that's ideal for dabbling ducks, particularly like teal or pintail that really like some shallower water, you're not going to have much open water if your whole field is just like this standing stubble. And even more so if it wasn't cut with a conventional combine, if it was cut with a stripper header or something, you'd have even more robust stubble there. So some kind of post-harvest practice to reduce this stubble is something that we encourage a lot of farmers to do if they're going to winter flood it for ducks. They can do that in a lot of different ways. They can roll it with a rice roller, or they can disc it, or they can mow it, or run a fire through it. That's something that's pretty common too. And it'll help reduce that stubble, create some openings, and give you that interspersion of some places where you don't disturb, where you have this, next to places where you have done some kind of manipulation, and giving that interspersion of standing vegetation and open water. And ducks are really super attracted to that mix of and patchiness of open water to vegetation. It looks more like what you think of a natural wetland when it's like that. Is if you do leave standing crop, do not manipulate this, because that, for those of you that are planning on hunting it, that would create a baited situation because you're scattering this seed from an unharvested crop. So you can do whatever you want to in this stubble that's been harvested, but you got to stay out of this stuff. So that may be a little bit more difficult talking about burning or something, but you'd have to make sure you have a fire break or something to keep it out of this.
Yep.
But if you're going to roll or disc or do something like that, just keep it into the stubble harvested portion of the field and keep it out of the unharvested stuff.
One thing about burning, you can tell we're in this field shortly after it's been harvested, and so it'll still be a while before a burn would even go across this unharvested rice stubble here. So that's one thing to think about is, we're a couple months before the waterfowl season opener, so still a while to go. Dry period usually in Mississippi, so this will continue to dry down some, but rice stubble holds a lot of moisture, got a lot of silica in the stem, so it doesn't really want to burn that well. That's typically what you want, though. If you're running a fire across it, you want it to be patchy again for that interspersion of open water and patchy vegetation, and so that's what you'll get a lot of times when you run a burn across a rice field. But just being sure that we mentioned that this is a long way from being able to carry a fire across it right now.
Creating that look that ducks are really attracted to, because I know it's kind of hard sometimes. You get out with a rice roller and something to see, like, well, how do I make this look as natural as possible? Weaving through the field, making some holes, going to another place, making another hole. That certainly, maybe sometimes it's difficult for somebody to picture, but that fire is obviously going to burn some of this place better than others once it gets to a point where you can run a fire through it, like Houston was talking about. But it'll kind of create places where maybe halfway burns stubble, some places burns it all the way to the ground, and some places where it doesn't burn it at all. And I think that usually, if it works out right, kind of creates that exact look that we're going for. But those are just several ways that you can enhance an actual production rice field that is going to be harvested for waterfowl on your property.